And then the next day,
Okay. Last thing I left off, guys, in the last video was I showed a little video about the stock market crash. Okay, and one of the things I wrote on the board, guys, that you should remember for the test is margin loans, and that's where people were borrowing money to invest in the stock market. Okay, which is going to have a negative impact. I don't get it. All right. Which will have a negative impact on the banking system. Okay, so we're going into the depression here. Okay, so we're up to like 4 different things that are causes of the Great Depression. Let me give you another one. And that is unequal distribution of wealth. Okay, we talked about worker output, outgaining wages. Okay, Hoover was wrong about the economy being in good shape. So when you look at the top 36,000 wealthiest families in the United States, an equal amount of wealth to the bottom 12 million. Okay, as far as wealth is concerned. All right. Those bottom 12 million were averaging income of $1,500 a year, and the cost of living was $2,000 a year. So, in essence, guys, if you're living below the cost of living, you're said to be living in what?
poverty.
Yeah, living in poverty. Okay, and so you had over, and there's probably about 120 million Americans at this point in time, pretty close to that. All right. Maybe a little bit more than that. So you're looking at close to 10% of the population that lives under the poverty level. Okay. Any idea what that is today? It's like 1/6 of the population in the United States today lives under poverty, or in poverty. Okay. Now, we have a safety net for a lot of those folks, especially the children. So you count the children in that. So you have things like Medicaid that's health care for the children of poor families. We have obviously free reduced lunches we're doing, and there's all sorts of safety net for people. The poor in the United States today live much better than the poor in other parts of the world. You understand? I mean, a lot of the poor in this country have air conditioning. You know what I mean? And there's major swaths of the planet do not have air conditioning. Okay, so and you guys know how miserable, how you would feel without air conditioning. We kind of take that for granted. You know what I mean? Yeah.
What's being done about, like, so the public schools, some of them have done that in school, and some haven't, like the teachers are testing stuff. What are they doing for the meals that are usually given out at lunch to?
You can go pick it up. That's what they did all summer. Yeah. Yeah, you go pick it up. Yeah.
What is the cost of living today?
The poverty line, it's different for like families versus the individual. So I don't think I can give you a number. But this was for families. I would say probably somewhere around, if it's a family of 4, somewhere around under 22, 27,000, something like that. Sam?
Cost is somewhere around like 30,000 or 40, because you can barely keep afloat if you're working 40 hours a week or more in a minimum wage job.
Most people don't work for minimum wage. Most people that have families don't work for minimum wage. Now, let me give you this. Okay, so my wife, God bless her. Okay, so we have this. Our church has kind of adopted another refugee community. Most of these people are from the Congo. They speak Swahili. I may have told you guys about this before. So my wife has kind of adopted this family. Okay, the husband is gone. He passed away. This woman, who is probably 55, does not speak English. She has 2 older sons that are out of school that have families of their own. And then she's got 2 daughters in her house, okay? And she worked like in laundry, like she worked for a company. And my wife said she was making $12,000 a year. Okay, that's poverty, for sure. So you also get, I mean, you get welfare benefits. She gets, you know, a lot of help. Now she wasn't working. I don't know if she was working a 40-hour week to make $12,000 a year. Now she may have been working for minimum wage, and I said, honey, we got to help her get a better job. You know what I mean? But then she got COVID, and she got it bad, and she was on a ventilator. She survived. She just moved back home, just got back home from the hospital, and so now we're trying to figure out, because they don't know if she's going to be able to go back to work. We got to help. You know, I mean, find something. Even like cleaning houses, she can make more than $12,000 a year cleaning houses. Okay, and you don't have to necessarily speak the language to do that. So we actually have some people. We have we're fortunate. We have somebody come clean our house twice a week or twice a month.
I was like,
Every other week.
Oh
And usually it's 2 or 3 ladies, and usually one of them speaks English. You understand? The other, they're all speaking Spanish to each other. Okay. Very nice. I try and leave when they're there, but anyhow, Mike, let's help this woman get a job with this company. And people leave tips. We leave tips for the ladies too. When they come and clean, and yeah. So that's why I told my wife. So once she starts feeling good, let's help her find a better job. But she's got to learn the language. You have to learn the language. It's so hard when you don't. You know what I mean? And so that needs to be like, okay, well, if we're going to help her, let's get her in an English class. Okay, so she can function in society for her kids' sake. Yeah.
This is my favorite question. Why do you have people clean your house?
Why would you ask them?
Why would you
I
not?
don't think we should ask them.
Did any of you guys have people clean? Okay, so we do this. Look. I'm busy. Okay. Now listen. My wife is busy. She works 4 hours than I do. You know what I mean? And so the floors, the big thing, the bathrooms, and the kitchen counter or the kitchen stove. Mainly for me, it's the floors, the vacuuming.
The cleaning ladies will
Like
get
they
places
dust.
that you have never thought about it ever.
Exactly.
I watch TikToks about it, and I'm like, I would have never thought to clean there.
Yeah, so it's nice coming home on a Wednesday afternoon.
Can you also
Friday
ask
afternoon.
you to clean your room so that they can like sweep the floor?
Yes, you have to clean your own room so they can clean the house.
Yeah. And that's
Yeah.
kind of nice. I hate it
When I was in Germany on my second homeschooling, I was really sick for like a little bit of time. And so I couldn't even go to school. I was so sick, so I was in bed. And my host parents were like, okay, we have this new guy coming over because our normal cleaner is away on like vacation or something. We've never had him before. But since you're home, we don't have to stay home. So we want you to watch him clean the house and make sure he like doesn't do anything weird. And I was like, I can't even get out of bed right now.
Steal
Like, I don't
anything.
understand why
Yeah.
you want me to spy on this cleaner
Right.
now.
I just go downstairs and clean.
Yeah, we do that too. They just clean the upstairs and the downstairs bathroom.
So I go back downstairs.
They make us leave the house.
They make you leave?
Yeah, they're scared of COVID.
Okay, all right, let's back to this, okay. Because it was the wealthy generally that invested in the stock market, right? And when they took a big hit, then they kind of started hoarding their cash. They stopped spending, they stopped investing because they were like everybody else were scared. And so this really is gonna help lead to the economy slowing down more when the wealthy stop investing and spending, okay? The middle class, although it was fairly strong, so many people were losing their jobs because of the slowdown in production, you start to see more and more layoffs of the middle class. And so they, as I said before, we're a consumer-driven economy. And if people don't have money to spend, it's going to continue to contract. Okay? So a recession, guys, there's 4 quarters in a year. Okay? Economic quarters, fiscal quarters, all right? Is negative growth in the economy for 3 quarters of the year, for 3 consecutive quarters. We are in a recession, okay? Some people say this, it's kind of funny. It says a recession is when your neighbor loses his job. A depression is when you lose yours, okay? Depression means that we have sustained negative growth in the economy, okay? In recent years for us, guys, since 2009, the U.S. GDP growth under the last few years of Obama was sitting somewhere around between 1.7 to 1.9 to 2.1, 2.2. Not great growth, slow growth. Okay? You don't want too fast a growth, otherwise you get inflation. Okay? So really, 4, 5, maybe 6% growth is something we really want to see in this country, because you guys understand our budget problems. We're spending so much money right now, and we're not bringing in that money. When the economy shrinks, the government has even less money, and now the government's spending more money. Guys, this is called Keynesian economics. I'll have that on your next homework assignment, okay? But that's when there's an economic slowdown, the thought is to the government to spend to bring us out of recession or depression, okay? And so this will be an attempt, not by Hoover yet, some by Hoover, but you got to remember, this is the 1920s into 1930. The government doesn't do much. The national government just isn't used to doing much, okay? So Hoover's going to continue kind of with that tradition, okay? Other flaws in the economy that we've talked about, okay? War debts and tariffs. Other nations unable to sell their goods here, couldn't afford to buy ours, more workers laid off here, okay? This is crazy. Margin loans are crazy when people borrow money to invest. I think that's crazy, okay? Although you can still do that today, except it's more like you put down 80%, you borrow 20% versus what they were doing back here in the 20s. But these holding companies are crazy, okay? So you have Henry Ford, right? He's selling all these cars, okay? So he's offering up Ford stock, okay? You and I buy Ford stock, okay? They take the money Ford takes the money that we give him by buying his stock. And instead of investing that in retooling his factory or building a new factory, he says, you know what? I think I can make more money if I take the money that you gave me and I invest it in General Electric. And I invested in other companies. So they're taking the money from stock sales and buying stocks. And so when the market tumbled like it did, that money just disappeared. The money we had invested in Ford was gone. You know what I mean? It's nuts, okay? And this really, people start to have less confidence when they find out this stuff is going on, okay? And so it's a whole gambling arena. The stock market becomes a whole gambling arena. Yeah.
How does money just disappear?
Okay, well, somebody's going to wind up, okay? So, but if you invest, because it's paper, so like the stocks that you're buying are paper, okay? Now, when you buy them, somebody's going to get the money, right? Okay, what they do with that, if they save it, then it doesn't disappear. But if Ford buys General Electric, and General Electric stock tumbles too, who has that money now? Well, General Electric does, okay? But what did they do with it? Did they invest in another company? So somebody's going to make the money, but it's going to fall in the hands of a few people, a few fortunate people, okay? But as far as the value of the stock that we bought in Ford, you know what I mean? It's gone. This is called speculation. You remember when the people in the 1840s, the 49ers went out to look for gold, or people went to Alaska, they called them speculators. They were speculating, I'm going to quit my job here, I'm going west, I'm going to find gold, I'm going to make it big. Most didn't. You know what I mean? And that's what people were doing. Is the stock market itself is not a cause. It's the gambling in the stock market that's a cause, if that makes sense. Okay? Obviously, some of the things we're going to need is, after this, is a few more regulations on the stock market. Okay? Because there's some problems with it. Okay? What the heck? You guys still writing? Mm-hmm. So, 6 causes for the Great Depression. Okay, you could probably find more than that, but I gave you 6. Okay, on the test, I'm going to have you explain 3. So you get a point for telling me what the cause was, and you get a point for explaining it. Good.
What are all of them? I only have 4.
Okay. We got tariffs. It's on the last slide of the notes, guys. The last slide of this chapter, I have all 6 listed.
Oh, never mind.
Yeah. I'm just trying to prep your mind, start thinking about, hey, I'm going to have to remember some of this, right? Okay. We good? Ready? All right. So Hoover. All right. Let's talk about Hoover. Now, I haven't really spoken about him personally much, and we have to dig in. This is going to be up here for a while, so you can listen to it. Okay. Hoover was orphaned as a child. By the age of 9, both of his parents had died. Okay. He was raised by an aunt and an uncle, and being an orphan is tough. Okay. And they didn't have a lot. But Hoover was a very bright young man. Okay. In fact, he's one of 2 presidents that we've had that were engineers. Okay. He will put himself through Stanford. Okay. They recognized he was a talented student, and so he put him through there. Got an engineering degree, and then after he graduated from Stanford, he started his own mining company. Okay, and became a multimillionaire. He's a success story. He's an American success story. Now, this is something you got to understand, because this really helps form his worldview. Okay, he came from nothing, and he's a millionaire. Okay, now, during World War I, Hoover, who is a very strong Christian man, okay, he's a strong Protestant. You might call him puritanical. Okay, who was strongly in favor of prohibition. You understand, okay? Hoover, during World War I, used his own money, and he went over to Europe and set up aid camps, medical camps, and food distribution centers for victims of World War I with his own money, okay? Good person, good human being. And so he becomes Secretary of Commerce under Harding and Coolidge, and then runs for president. Okay, and so when he runs for president and wins, and this happens under his watch. Now he takes office, okay, in March of 1929. He's elected in 28. And they take office in March. They used to take off. So the stock market crash happens 6 months later in October. Basically 6-7 months later. Is that Hoover's fault? Did Hoover's presidential, his policies cause this, the stock market crash? No. Will he be blamed for it? Yes. If you're president and bad things happen, you get blamed. If you're president and good things happen, even though it may not be your doing, you get the praise. Okay? It's the way it works. Okay? Our most famous presidents, guys, usually crises happen during those times. And they either stood up to it or they didn't. Okay, you know, they shined or they didn't. Okay, so based on Hoover's worldview, he's going to call on cities, states, and charities to help feed the hungry. Okay, we do that. Now, not the federal government, right? Cities and states and charities. Okay, he brought business leaders into the White House. Hey, if you guys can keep businesses open, keep wages up, then we'll have people with jobs that can buy products and help us get out of this situation. Okay? They wanted to cut taxes, but remember, taxes were already low. 25% for the wealthy. Okay? Wouldn't make much of a difference. And then the Secretary of Treasury, Mellon, okay, says, look, we are not going to bail out these companies. If you cannot survive as a business, in whatever environment it is, it's not the role of government to bail you out. If you can't stand the heat,
You're gonna get burned?
get out the kitchen. You guys haven't heard that? Yeah. Can't stand the heat, get out the kitchen. Okay? So it's the traditional approach. Hey, they're going to go out of business. They can't, they're going to go out of business. Purge the rottenness from the system. New companies will come along and replace them. Okay? So that's Hoover's worldview. Okay? Oops. What is... Okay. That's a bread line, okay, or a soup kitchen, okay, and these are going to be common all over the United States, okay. Now, one of the things they want to do is help farmers, okay, because farmers are not able to sell their goods overseas because of these tariffs. So the farmers are hurt, okay, and so we'll see some of the things that Hoover's willing to do, but he's only willing to go so far. And a key word you guys need to watch for here is this one. Hoover will loan you money, expect you to pay it back. But Hoover's not going to give you something for nothing. You understand? No freebies here. Okay, that's his worldview. Because where he came from. He's like, if I can do it, anybody can. Okay, so they passed the agricultural marketing bill, which means just trying to help the farmers sell their crops. Okay, so this creates the federal farm board because you got to have, there's the bill. You need a board to do it. Okay, and they gave $500 million in loans to farmers to try and sell their crops, help them market their crops. It didn't really work. Okay, the goal was to keep farm prices up. In the end, they started using that $500 million to just buy the food from the farmers. The government did. I mean, who are you selling to? I mean, it's making it difficult. Okay. So prices fell for farmers. So a bushel of wheat in 1931 went from $1 a bushel to 61 cents a bushel. If you're a farmer, that's devastating. That's 40% drop. Okay. Look at cotton. Cotton went from 16 cents a pound to 6 cents a pound. Devastating, okay, for the farmer. You really can't make a living, okay? So the government will end up buying about $185 million of our farmers' crops, all right? Now, so Hoover says, all right, we need to fix this. We need to revise the textile tariff. You guys know what textiles are. Right. Clothing, linens, sheets, that sort of thing. Anything that's cloth, okay, rugs, textile industry, which is really big in this country at that time. You guys all studied the Triangle Shirt Factory from last year. The one where they had the big fire where yeah, that was where like unions were important. You don't remember this? How many of you guys remember the Triangle Shirt Factory? You weren't paying attention. Ferris talked about it, didn't he?
Well, I did a project.
Oh, you did your NHD on it?
No, he had like a 5 significant dates project at the end of the year, and I wondered why was that. So.
Okay. Okay, well, guys, Triumph Shirt Factory was a place where New England had a lot of textile manufacturing, okay? And mostly it was women that worked in the textile industry, okay? So they're sewing, they're, all, but the working conditions were really poor, especially at this factory. And they wanted the women to work hard and be efficient. And so like, they didn't want them taking breaks and leaving when they were supposed to. So they locked all the exits. And then there was a fire.
I'm pretty sure actually. Wasn't there a video about this? What was that?
Oh my God.
This is the importance of unions, right? Because then the workers could say, hey, listen, we're not going to work like this. We're not going to live like this. You know what I mean? So Hoover's asking for a revision on the tariffs for textiles to try and help the textile industry. They're hurting. Cotton prices are way down. He's trying to help. He's going to end up hurting. Okay. He's going to, what Congress is going to come back with. Okay. So this isn't just on Hoover. This is on Congress. Congress is going to come back with the Holy Smoot Tariff Act. Holy Smoot? Anyone? Anyone? Bueller? Bueller? Ferris Bueller. How many guys seen that movie? Sweet. In this movie,
I don't know how to dress up as a journalist.
okay,
I'm a college student.
Holy Smoot. So in 1930, they passed the Holy Smoot Tariff Act. Okay, Congress overdoes it. So all he wanted was a revision on the textile tariff. They come back and they're going to boost tariffs on thousands of items. We've already shown the impact of these tariffs. So what's going to end up happening, guys, within 17 months of Holy Smoot, imports and exports are going to be cut in half. It's going to have a devastating effect on the economy, okay? Now, in the movie Ferris Bueller's Day Off, the teacher that is teaching the Holy Smoot Tariff Act is an actor named Ben Stein.
Yeah, I remember.
This is Ben Stein. Now, Ben Stein is not only an actor, he's a Harvard-educated economist in real life. Okay? So when he got this role in this movie, they said, just talk about something really boring in history. Of course, he's an economics guy, so he talks about the Holy Smoot Tariff.
Respectfully, this is the most boring job I've ever had. Ever.
Ever.
And I used to live in a box before this. Adams, here. Adamley,
Here.
Adamowski, Adamson,
Here.
Adler,
Here.
Anderson, Anderson, here. Bueller, 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 Bueller.
He's sick. My best friend's sister's boyfriend's brother's girlfriend heard from this guy who knows this kid is going with the girl who saw Ferris pass out at 31 Flavors last night. I guess it's pretty serious.
Thank you, Simone.
No problem whatsoever.
Fry. In 1930, the Republican-controlled House of Representatives, in an effort to alleviate the effects of the, anyone? Great Depression,
passed anyone? The tariff bill, the Hawley-Smoot Tariff Act, which anyone raised or lowered? Raised tariffs in an effort to collect more revenue for the federal government. Did it work? Anyone? Anyone know the effects? It did not work, and the United States sank deeper into the Great Depression. Today, we have a similar debate over this. Anyone know what this is, class? Anyone? Anyone? Anyone seen this before? The Laffer curve. Anyone know what this says? It says that at this point on the revenue curve, you will get exactly the same amount of revenue as at this point. This is very controversial. Does anyone know what Vice President Bush called this in 1980? Anyone? Something DOO economics. Voodoo economics.
Okay. If you have not seen Ferris Bueller's Day Off as a high school student, you need to see it. Okay. He's skipping school. That's where he is. Okay. And he's having an adventure. All right. So, again, humor in the classroom, right? So, actually, I've been showing that for years, just because Ben Stein is a really smart guy. You know what I mean? He's an actor, but he's a really smart guy. He used to have a show on Comedy Central called Win Ben Stein's Money. So that'd be like trivia questions, you know, or you know, like Scholars Bowl questions. And if you beat him, you won his money. Okay. Not many people beat him. So, all right. So that's Holly Smoot. And this is going to help sink us further into the depression. The tariffs will make things worse, not better. Okay. All right. I kind of foreshadowed about this on the banks. Okay. So I mentioned margin loans, but there's other factors here. Okay. Because trade is slowed down so much. When there's a lot of trade, especially in a place like New York City, right, with the huge harbor, all of our port cities, there's a lot of cash coming into the banks and so forth. There's more cash flow, okay? And with foreign deposits slowing because of trade slowing down, the banks have less cash, okay? This is a problem of cash, okay? So, when farmers suffered because of low prices, now guys, farmers are just like everybody else. They borrow money. They borrow money for tractor equipment. They borrow money for seed. They borrow money to buy land, okay? And when the farmers couldn't sell their products for enough money, they had an inability to pay back their loans to the bank, and the banks had less cash. Now, when people borrowed money on margin to invest in the stock market, and then the stock market tumbled and crashed, people not only lost their initial investment, but the money they borrowed from the banks to buy this stock is gone. And so they can't pay it back to the banks. So the banks have less. When people find out that the banks are low on, they rush to the banks to get out there, and the banks run out. And they shut their doors. There's no FDIC, guys. When the banks shut their doors and you had money in that savings account, it's gone. It's gone. 9 million Americans will lose their savings account. When it's all said and done, 1/4 of all the country's banks will go under. Started with the rural banks, okay, but spread from there. Okay, so you can see by date here, 1929, 659, 1930, 1300, and so on. 1933 obviously being a really bad year. Okay, we had this, guys. Some of this was going on in 2009. We saw quite a few banks go under in 2009. Now, your money was protected in those banks if that bank was a FDIC member. Okay, right now it's up to what, $250,000. The FDIC protects your money. Okay, so yeah, it's bad. It's bad. Okay, yeah.
With the things like debit cards where it's, your money isn't really in cash, but it's just in a card that's connected to your account, how would that not prevent them just from running out of cash and running out of money?
Yeah, so like, let's say you had $200,000 in the bank. My wife and I have an account at Chisholm Trail State Bank right by our house, and then we have accounts with interest. If I go into Chisholm Trail State Bank at 37th and Woodlawn, okay, and I say I want to withdraw $200,000, I want to close my account. I need cash. They wouldn't have. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They say, okay, you're going to need to give us 24 hours. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then they shut their door between now and then, and we're screwed. They don't have it. Then you guys see, so yes, they do not keep that much cash at the bank.
But when it's like a card and it's not cash, how would that not? So it's only when people trying to get the cash, like closing their accounts?
Yes.
Okay.
Did any of you guys ever see the movie It's a Wonderful Life?
That's the thing with.
Okay, so Uncle What's His Name loses the deposit. Everybody freaks out, and it's a run on the bank. You know what I mean? And all these people come, and these are friends. These are people that it's a small community. And he's saying, okay, well, what can you get by? He's using like his life savings, his own money, for his like vacation, or he's going on an adventure, right?
Honeymoon.
Is it honeymoon at this time? Yeah. So they use the money for the honeymoon. And he says, can you get by with $30 for this month? And some of them said, I want all my money out. And so when they were done, they were left with two $1 bills. And they did a little dance and hoped that they would make. But it's a fun movie. The best Christmas movie in my opinion. But anyhow, yeah. So guys, I'm gonna ask you to explain this to me on the test. Okay. All right. And I think I have a video too. So how much time we got? 3? All right, let's watch the video on bank failures real quick. No. Here.
The one who broke her arm. And then she tripped on someone's back. And then I had broke her arm. And I wrote, you don't want to go back.
Black Tuesday may have signaled the start of the Great Depression, but the collapse of the stock market wasn't the only cause of the nation's financial woes. The federal government of the 1920s had supported big business with low interest rates and very little governmental regulation, especially over the stock market. In turn, many businesses borrowed more money to expand than they could ever afford to repay. High tariffs that had kept American business owners happy because they kept foreign-made products out of the U.S. unfortunately meant many European countries were unable and increasingly unwilling to buy American-made products. For instance, Germany was barely able to pay the World War I reparations she owed, and high tariffs like the Hawley-Sloop Tariff Act, passed by Congress in 1930, only made matters worse. The tariff's goal was to protect American farmers and manufacturers, but it backfired. America found itself unable to sell her farm goods and manufactured products abroad. World trade in turn faltered as foreign countries imposed severe tariffs of their own in retaliation. Many key industries were struggling even before Black Tuesday. Throughout the boom times of the Roaring '20s, agriculture had been in a tailspin. The textile, steel, automobile, and railroad industries were also beginning to feel the pinch. As the unemployment rate increased, most families bought even less. The gap between the handful of wealthy Americans and the rest of the population got even wider. Even though most Americans had not profited from the economic boom of the 1920s, they bought many exciting new products and services during this era of unrestricted credit, living well beyond their means. The banking industry, too, was hard hit. Some banks had invested heavily in the stock market and helplessly stood by as that money vaporized into thin air. As Americans began to realize the pitiful state of the troubled economy, many panicked and rushed to withdraw their savings from banks. Many banks simply couldn't instantly produce the cash demanded, and instead shut their doors, leaving depositors with nothing. Bank failures wiped out nearly 9 million individual savings accounts. 659 banks were closed in 1929, and by 1933, 1/4 of America's banks had failed.
Okay. So when we get tomorrow, what I'll be talking about, guys, is Hoover's reaction to this. They are going to try and do some things. We're also going to throw the Dust Bowl in here, okay? That's going to add insult to injury, okay? And so some more depression tomorrow. Tune in. Okay? Have a good one, guys. It lasts more than a decade.